Welcome to Giving You More Than Numbers, CASS's business support podcast, your go-to resource for practical business advice and expert insights.
Hello, and welcome to CASS's podcast, Giving You More Than Numbers, where we give you small, practical advice on actually improving how your business operates. Today, our topic is all about cash flow and how that is so important at the centre of your business. And today I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Paul McKay from Xero and Louise McCabe, who is the owner of accounting firm Angel Accounting based in Alcester.
Hi there.
Good afternoon. As I say, Louise, thank you for joining us. If you could tell us a little bit about you, your background, and a little bit about Angel Accounting.
Indeed. So I'm Louise, the owner, the lady with the grey hair at Angel Accounting. I've run the business for 30 years now, and I have a little secret to let you into. I'm not really an accountant. I'm actually a former corporate banker. But don't worry, I have been rehabilitated back into society, having seen the error of my ways. I come from a small business background. My father always ran his own firm, and looking after small businesses is my passion in life, basically because I learned a lot in banking. Once upon a time, your bank manager was your best friend to help you when you ran a business. They don't exist anymore. So now that's what we try to do at Angel Accounting, be your friend in business.
Brilliant. Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, afternoon. My name is Paul McKay. I'm part of the Xero team in the UK. I've been at Xero for about 8 years. I've been working with accountants and bookkeepers up and down the country for about 18 years. So I've been doing this quite a while. Yeah, lucky me, I get to work with amazing practices like Paul and Louise day in, day out, really helping them and their clients digitise.
But you don't have grey hair.
Don't look too close. I don't know that.
Right, let's pull this away from hair. There's too much hair going on in this today. I think that obviously we've said that the idea of today is all about cash flow. It is the absolute heart of every business. Without cash flow, you cannot succeed, you can't grow. And understanding that cash flow is probably the most paramount part of running a business. So I think if we have a little look at one of the first parts in terms of cash flow is that health check. It's that ability to understand what my cash position is. And before we can understand it, let's have a little delve into experiences of how do you identify cash flow problems in the first instance?
Well, when you look at figures, everybody, it's a very old adage, and it's a little bit naff to say it, but turnover is vanity, profit is sanity. But actually, without a business, you're not there. Cash is always king, and cash is what allows you to do things. Now, if only I could always do what I say in practice, because you get tied up in business and you get running ahead with what's going on. And it's so easy to lose sight of the fact that cash is what you need to be able to drive forward and be able to do what you need to do in business. Pressure signs come there. Clients don't pay you as quickly as they should be paying you. You can't meet payments, or every owner of a business has felt that position where they've had to put their own money into the business at the end of the month to make sure that the staff are paid, because we all know that we pay our staff before we pay us. I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying that's what happens. And that's when we realise that actually we need to be on top of where we are with our cash flow.
Yeah, I think some of the early signs that we see is that customer that always pays you on time and then suddenly it doesn't arrive. They avoid your phone calls. They asking for copy invoices. So from a cash flow in, which is always the driver then to be able to pay out, that's our first early sign. The direct debits cancelled, the payments that have always been on time suddenly become 14 days late, then 21 days, and before you know where you are. But I think most business owners will look to pay staff and suppliers first, and then some of probably the most important people to stay friendly with, our friends at HMRC, they tend to be the ones that get left behind. And whilst that in some circumstances can be negotiated, it's the one area that there isn't a lot of tolerance.
Well, they're the easiest one not to pay because historically HMRC haven't been on the ball, but unfortunately they're the ones with the strongest teeth at the moment, and they're the ones that come to really cause you headaches, which I'll tell you about a little bit later.
Oh no, we don't want headaches. So before we kind of look at how we can mitigate that, and I know that that's sort of where Xero are really front and centre. If we look at two different scenarios, so we're very much digital. I know Louise is on that digital transformation. So what is your process for reviewing somebody's cash flow position, and how do you help clients understand that sometimes money in the bank isn't their true cash position?
It's very difficult because you don't wish to be preaching at people all of the time. And they say you can take a horse to water and you can't make it drink, even if you put its head under the waterline. If it doesn't want to drink, it won't drink. All you can do is encourage people to look at the data that's available, or more importantly, share with me the data that they've got so that I can at least extract it and find out the position for it. Not be embarrassed if the position isn't how you'd like it to be. It's far better to try to fight the fire early and actually have the massive blaze to have to put out a bit further down the line. We're all in it together.
Absolutely. Paul, is there any sort of bits that you picked up going and working with other accountancy firms that we see ways, probably more in a digital sphere for you, that business owners get the support from an accountant to help them understand that cash flow?
Yeah, so we're huge advocates with cash flow and having and reducing debtor days. We're actually at the Houses of Parliament monthly at the moment. We go down there, all our senior leadership team, and we're all about getting small businesses paid on time. So it's a huge focus for us in the UK, and it's something we preach to all our partners at the same time. So what we're trying to do is support the UK, the partners, small businesses, direct to government, but also we're supporting clients directly and partners. So we've done that in a number of formats, whether it's online tools or parts of our products itself, but we're doing it in a number of different angles. But yeah, different partners have different stories around cash flow management with their clients.
I think when I was a bank manager, when people used to come for a loan or an application, the first thing you'd say to them is to produce a cash flow. And they'd toddle off to their accountant, produce this cash flow, which came in a lovely binder, and you looked at it and went, that's great. And it never saw the light of day again. And I am a strong advocate in the fact that a cash flow should actually be a working document, preferably with tea and coffee stains all over it to prove that it's been utilised. The back of a fag packet is acceptable. It doesn't actually have to be a fancy Excel spreadsheet, but it's a lot easier if you've got everything automated in the cloud and you can put the tools alongside it to extract it faster. You don't need as many fag packets if you do it that way either. But it should be a working document that's looked at least once a week, if not actually once a day. And I've known some clients looking at it several times a day.
Yeah. And that leads us, I suppose, nicely on to this kind of cash flow health check, is how often should we be looking at cash flow? Not only where are we at, but what's that projection of what's coming? But just to pull back one thing in terms of what we do with our clients around the reviewing their cash position, before we even hit cash and we wonder what that impact is, we talk to them about, well, what credit terms are you giving to your customers, and what payment terms are your suppliers actually expecting you to pay? And whilst we're not really into case stories, we had a client that offered his biggest customer 30-day payment terms, but his supplier wanted paying in 7. And all of a sudden he's upside down, and you have this fear, I think, where it's your biggest client and your biggest customer, I'm going to allow that cash flow and those payment terms to be extended because I want the business. Well, actually, it's all right having that turnover. I've done £1 million worth of sales, but the amount of money that you're actually owed is actually significantly, let's say it's £500,000 in terms of debtor book because of your payment terms.
But then you do have to also remember the environment that you're working within. So there are some companies that I work with who their staff have to be paid weekly, the drivers perhaps, but their clients, because of the way the industry goes, are on 60 and 90-day terms. And then cash flow is very, very important because we don't all have that level of money behind the sofa to
That's it.
that.
And we'll talk about some of the tips and the tricks on how we can actually make that work for us a little bit later in the chat. So we spoke about how often should they check.
Yep.
Now, if they're working in a spreadsheet-based environment, it's a little bit harder, a little bit longer. So you probably find people only check it once a week. If we're lucky, predominantly, and in my experience pre-Xero and live environments, it would just form part of a management reporting pack at the end of a month.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So realistically, I guess our first big tip is have a working document as a cash flow model. If you aren't in the cloud, it needs to be a live Excel spreadsheet. If you are working in the clouds, that tool is already there, and it's about you making odd adjustments to it. And we'll talk about that shortly in the next section of the podcast.
Thanks for listening to Giving You More Than Numbers. Subscribe for more business insights from Team CASS.